Hey everyone, it is Brent with Awcom. I want to talk about something today that is really topical. There's a lot of conversation about it. There's a ton of new information out there, a ton of suggestions and things you're supposed to do, but I want to try to make sense of it and give you a couple very specific points that you can address. What we're talking about today is really just security. It is how do you protect your business against cyber threats that are happening today, and they are happening. They are all over the place. If they haven't affected you yet, it may be because you don't know they are already affecting you, or because you haven't heard about it yet, but they are rampant. They are everywhere. They are after small-sized companies. They are after the medium-sized organizations because they don't have the budget like the enterprise do to protect themselves. So it is there. It is all around. It is just a matter of time. So there are a few things that you need to do right now to protect you, to protect your customers, to protect your employees. Step one is we generally start talking about systems and tools that you have in place. This is an easy one for a technology company because this is what we live and breathe, right? We do this for a living. We know that you have to put in some type of a multi-factor authentication, which means that not only do I log in and I give you my password, but now the system's going to come back and hit my cell phone and say, are you also in possession of your cell phone? Did you just try to log in? It's just two different points of contact to know that you're the person trying to access that system. It's very easy to put in place. There's a number of different providers that do it, but it gives you an extra level of protection when you're logging in and accessing critical systems and critical information or confidential information. Another one that we do is what's called single sign-on. The advantage of single sign-on is you're creating a very secure connection to all the different applications that you use. So if I connect to my accounting system, or I connect to my EMR system, or I connect to my CRM system, all of these different tools that I use to execute day-to-day operations for my business, I log in securely to one system, verify who I am, use my multi-factor authentication to verify that it is actually me trying to get in. And then now when I go to these other systems, I'm already connected. They've verified me behind the scenes and they know it's me because they've already gone through that two-step process in the very beginning. So single sign-on is another great tool. Another one that we use commonly is a password manager. Password managers are fantastic because they allow you to create very long, very secure passwords, store them in a secure location, and then when I go to, say, my Salesforce, or when I go to my Microsoft Dynamics CRM, or I go to my Office 365, and these tools, my password manager pops up and says, would you like me to authenticate you and log you in? Absolutely, I don't have to remember any passwords, but I know they're super long and they're super secure. It's a very good tool to use to simplify some of this process, but also because you're simplifying the login mechanism, you're simplifying how long it takes you to get in. You can make these passwords very long, very complex. You can make them phrases, and that's really important to protect people from like brute force attacks where they just guess passwords until they get it. So the longer the password, the better, and the password manager helps you make them longer without putting a lot of work on your shoulders. So we start with tools. The next thing we look at is people, education, training. It is very, very important to train everyone within the organization on what are common attacks, how are people trying to get information. There's things called man in the middle where you're sending an email back and forth to somebody, then all of a sudden that person gets an email saying, hey, would you mind wiring this to a different place? Or I'm out on the road and I need you to transfer me some gift cards. Or these common attacks that people are doing because they're in your email, they're monitoring those communications, and they're waiting for an appropriate time where they know somebody's out of town and they can take over all of that communication now and try to get you to give them information or send them something. We see it a lot commonly with payroll attacks. We see it commonly with gift card attacks. We see it commonly with wiring of financials and information. So those are called man in the middle, but education helps. It goes a long way. It's very easy to say, if somebody asks you for something that you're not used to seeing, verify by phone. Call them up, make sure they were the ones who asked for that, make sure that it's okay to send this information before you send it. It's just an education issue, it's a social engineering issue, it's another area that we focus on. Third, the reality of it is, which is unfortunate, but there is no way to protect against everything. We are a security-focused IT organization. We have a number of best practices that are put in place to secure all the environments of our customers. But we know that the more money and the more technology you put in place just changes the type of hacker that tries to get that information. It's impossible to stop this industry. It's over a $6 billion industry that is going after all of the organizations to try to exploit and get information. So when you realize that, and you know that no matter how many systems you put in place, which you have to, by the way, you still need something else to add on to that to make sure that if something does happen, you're protected in that situation as well. For us, that looks like cyber liability policies or other E&O policies, just insurance policies that say if everything is covered, all my bases are covered, but something new comes out that nobody knew about, and they exploit us and get access into something that we didn't want them to, we have some insurance to fall back on to cover PR costs, to cover mitigation costs, to cover like our restoration costs, getting systems back up and running in our business operational again. So when you focus on that, when you look at the tools and technology you have in place, when you look at training and letting people understand not only the attacks, but some of the social engineering side of it, and then you put insurance policies in place, you're covered more than 99% of the companies out there. And given that small to mid-sized business is where the majority of attacks are right now, that's a very good position to be in.